Welcome to another episode of Bible Storybook. Today we journey into a story not often told, the tale of a woman named Hushai, whose courage, quick thinking, and quiet faith helped save King David during one of the darkest moments of his reign. Her name doesn't echo as loudly as David's, nor does her story fill entire chapters, but in her brief moment of history, she reminds us that divine wisdom can whisper through unlikely voices. Let's step back in time to the dusty roads of ancient Israel, where betrayal, strategy, and faith intertwined to determine the fate of a king. David's reign, though marked by triumphs and songs of victory, was also shadowed by sorrow. His own son, Absalom, turned against him, gathering an army to seize the throne. The rebellion was swift and treacherous. David, once the beloved shepherd king, became a man on the run. In his flight from Jerusalem, David's heart must have ached with the sting of betrayal and the weight of his own past sins. Yet as Scripture often reveals, when the night grows darkest, God's hidden helpers begin to move. One of these was Hushai, a woman of intelligence, loyalty, and courage, whose story unfolds like a secret note written between the lines of history. When David fled the city, he left behind a few trusted allies to act as his eyes and ears within Absalom's camp. Among them was Hushai the architect, who many believe to be a male counselor of David, but there is also mention in certain traditions and interpretations of a wise woman of Bahurim who played a pivotal role in saving David's messengers. This woman, sometimes overshadowed by the name Hushai, becomes the symbol of silent bravery. When David's young men were pursued, she concealed them beneath layers of grain, deceiving Absalom's soldiers and ensuring that the message of Hushai's counsel reached the king safely. Her home became a refuge, her wit a weapon, and her courage a shield for the Lord's anointed. Imagine the tension of that moment, the soldiers pounding on her door, dust rising from their sandals, suspicion burning in their eyes. The woman stood calm, her voice steady, her face unreadable. "They went that way," she said, pointing to a path that led nowhere. Beneath the surface of her home, hidden in a well, the messengers held their breath, trusting that God would use her to deliver them. And he did. That one act, quiet, risky, unrecorded in grand songs, changed the course of Israel's future. It's often in such moments that heaven's heroes are made, not by armies or crowns, but by courage born of faith. There is a strange beauty in how God writes his stories. He often hides greatness in places the world overlooks. A shepherd boy, a widow with 2 coins, a fisherman with trembling hands, or here, a woman in a small village whose name history barely whispers. Yet in God's eyes, her act was monumental. It reminds us that destiny is not reserved for the famous, but for the faithful. The woman of Bahurim, sometimes identified with Hushai's network, teaches us that obedience in a single moment can echo through eternity. Had she hesitated, David might have fallen into Absalom's hands. But she didn't. She acted, she trusted, and through her, divine purpose prevailed. Philosophically, this story invites us to ponder how wisdom operates in silence. The woman who saved David did not need a sword or title. She used discretion, a quality so rare, yet so powerful. In life, we often equate greatness with noise, visibility, or recognition. But God, time and again, reveals that his mightiest work happens in hidden places. Sometimes saving a life or changing history is not about being seen, it's about being willing. Hushai's network, this woman's courage and David's trust, formed an unseen chain of divine strategy, showing that heaven's plans are not always loud, but they are always sure. As David later returned to Jerusalem, victorious and restored, one wonders if he ever thought of that woman, if he remembered the stillness of her bravery that gave him another sunrise. Perhaps in the quiet moments of his old age, he knew that the kingdom stood not only on his songs or victories, but also on the faith of those who acted unseen. Every kingdom, even today, stands on the shoulders of quiet heroes, mothers, teachers, peacemakers, and believers who dare to do right when no one applauds. The woman of Bahurim stands among them, a reminder that salvation often wears humble clothing. There's a hidden moral here, that divine intervention doesn't always roar, Sometimes it whispers through human hands. God used this woman's simple act to shield his anointed and to preserve his promise. Her courage tells us something profound about the nature of faith. It does not need recognition to be real, nor reward to be righteous. True faith acts because it must, not because it's seen. How many lives today depend on quiet faith like hers? Faith that hides, protects, endures, and trusts in God's unseen hand. So as you reflect on Hushai and the woman of Bahurim, ask yourself, where in your own life is God calling you to act quietly but courageously? Perhaps your role is not to stand on a stage, but to shield a purpose, to hold truth, or to carry light into hidden places. The beauty of this story lies in its subtlety, a reminder that in God's grand narrative, even the smallest acts of faith are threads in his divine tapestry. Thank you for joining today's episode of Bible Storybook. If this story stirred your heart, share it and tell us in the comments. Do you believe small acts of courage can still change history today? Until next time, keep seeking truth, keep walking in faith, and remember, even the quietest voices can echo through eternity. See you in the next episode.